Well, good evening and welcome to yet another video featuring the Genos 2. As you probably are aware, I think this instrument is incredible and really nothing else can touch it. Having said that, I wanted to today discuss a couple of things maybe with the arpeggiator that's in the keyboard and one of the functions that you can do to lock. Maybe then look at possibilities of improving what's already in here, because a lot of people do sort of comment and say, well, what does the arpeggiator do? Well, in a nutshell, it plays a rhythmic pattern. So you can go in by clicking direct access and going to the arpeggiation page, and you've got a whole host of different sort of styles and patterns. Now, if you're not a good musician, if you're sort of having to play with this and maybe you just want to have a bit of fun, not take anything too seriously, the arpeggiation or the arpeggiator will actually give you the ability to just play. So if I put a style with this, you can pick a different pattern. It's a whole bag of fun. There are limitations to this, and I do sort of scratch my head and wonder who at Yamaha made the decision to kind of just stop, because that's the way it feels. It's like they put half an arpeggiator in and thought, oh, not bother, because you can't actually do a lot with them other than just play. A lot of instruments that you have, you can program a sequence, a pattern that you could bring in on a multipad button, for example. But with this, you cannot record arpeggiation into the multipad, and I bet many of you have already tried. So Yamaha, if you are listening, sort this out, because all it needs is just a little bit more development. The arpeggiations in here are really good. So you can pick a different pattern and you can have a lot of fun. Using the modern voices obviously gives you a much more modern sound, obviously. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is when you turn this on, when you take your hand off, it will stop. However, if you go into... Where is it now? I forgot. Even I've forgotten where it is. Oh dear me. There we go. It's in voice setting on menu page 2. If you go to the SA2 arpeggio box at the bottom, here you can change whether it'll hold or just sort of when you take your fingers off, it'll stop playing. So here you can see if I turn hold on, and when I play a chord, turn it on, of course, it holds. That to me is quite an essential part, because apart from anything else, there's not much else you can do, because you'd have to still sit there and play the chord. And at least this way it locks into the style and plays in time nicely. I mean, don't get me wrong, you have really got to pick the right pattern. Because if you've got a busy style already, you don't want something that's going to be too much. Like that one. You've got options with arpeggiation with filter and gate, which is quite a nice effect. So, yeah, as I said to you, it is a feeling that they sort of just thought, oh, we better put something on here just to keep certain people happy. But it never got finished. It never got sort of taken to that next level that it could be. And other instruments, if you look at any modern synth, the arpeggiator is one of the key elements. And again, they could have gone and done things with programming the arpeggiation to come in with the registration. It could have been something so much better. But for what we've got, I suppose it'll do. That's the only phrase you can use. And of course, if you go into that setting as well, you've got quantize to sort of make sure that when you change your sequences, that they actually are much quicker and faster. So again, it acts quicker like a semi-quaver. Obviously, that's what we've got. So if you do want to just have the chord change on one beat, you can actually say to the machine, quantize, I want it to set to a crotchet, quaver, or a semi-quaver. I always leave it on semi-quaver generally because it's a little bit more musical. You don't have to use, obviously, that voice. That's the other thing. And things like this is where it starts to get really interesting. Because using this sort of the shorter voices gives you a much... In fact, if we go on to the first page... what was it, third page? Where are we? Oh, there we go, we're going to synth, that's why. There we go, pluck. Hit pluck. Crackly. Cracky. Turn it on. Change the voice. It's a bit of fun. That's all it is. It's a bit of fun. Because really, there's not a lot with that you can do seriously. It's, like I say, it's just like somebody decided to throw one on and hope for the best, and nobody's really done anything more with it. The two elements on this instrument, from my personal view, that really need a good looking at is that and multipads. Multipads could open so many amazing opportunities if only Yamaha sort of thought, well, hang on a minute, why don't we put some phrases that are able to be loaded in with maybe vocal in, maybe more sort of pop dance sort of orientated, even orchestral. You could bring things in with sort of choirs, and the multipad has so much scope. And yet it's just literally used as a very simple phrase. Not that I would recommend using that with that particular style. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. And again, you can bring in those multipads. go to a multipad, put some vintage guitar in there, some offbeat. Not very much going on there, is there? Dear. Let's try a 16. So you can build the styles up. The nice thing is with the multipads that I do really like is if you particularly pick a style that you think maybe is great but could do with a bit of a tweak. That isn't one of them. Let's just try and find... Where's it gone? There we go, try that one. Okay. So in this style, we have got we've got accordion, we've got plenty of guitar, we've got electric piano by the looks of it. You can just simply go in and turn off certain parts using the channel control. I can just have bass and drums, and that is when I would bring in a multipad. Definitely not that one though, because it's far too busy. We want something like a nice 8-beat. In fact, let's go back to this steel because I know the 8-beat strum is nice. There we go. Now, all we've done there is turned all the parts off from the backing and just triggered a multipad. So if I bring in some strings maybe, or an electric piano, let's bring in an electric piano on the left hand. You've got a new style because all you're doing is playing the electric piano with the left hand. Strumming guitar is filling in the guitar part. And of course Yamaha have generally on multipad 3 and 4 brought in some additional drums as well. So technically you could create a style just using these parts. So let me just trigger that with variation A of the style. And it sounds completely and utterly different to... Let me just go back and show you how this did sound. If you wanted to, you could bring in Turkish percussion, you could do anything that's within the multipad. This is one of the things that I keep saying and trying to get somebody at Yamaha to cotton on to the fact that multipads could be really something quite incredible. I mean, if you think about other keyboards, for example, the Ketron Event, that uses a build-up of various different parts. Why can't we do this with a Genos? It would be so awesome, but it's still awesome. It's an incredible product, but it has so much scope to be something significant. You know, really sort of streets ahead. And I don't know why Yamaha sort of held back. I mean, I do, because obviously we had a pandemic. But for the moment, I have no idea why Yamaha. I hope Yamaha are actually looking at this and sort of thinking, well, let's do something more with this, let me do something with all that, and expand what it does. We've had so many styles, so many voices, we really don't want any more. Obviously, maybe we do, but we certainly don't want that to be the only thing with Genos 3. We want Genos 3 to have more technical features, more functions, more creative elements to the product. Not just another style, another voice, another style, another voice. We want it to be more. So if you've got any, I don't know whether I should actually suggest this, but if you have got any ideas, because Yamaha have a portal where members of the sort of the development group, it's like a little forum thing where they should ask for your suggestions. And some of them that I see on there, honestly, there's a big hole in my wall here when I smack my head, because they're about as imaginative as, yeah. It's like saying, oh, should we have this button turned into blue instead of black? There's more you can do, and this could be so much more. I sound like I'm moaning, but I'm not. I'm just keen to see the Genos evolve and go in a slightly more maybe modern direction. I mean, the montage is a very, very different beast, and as I've come to realise, as Yamaha have kindly sort of supplied one to me to try and see, it's chalk and cheese, because with this instrument you can sit and play a melody line with a whole host of voices that the keyboard has. The montage seems to be more, I don't know how I would describe it, maybe effects, sort of pad driven. It doesn't stand out and say, well, this is a great lead voice and this is another great lead voice. It's like this mishmash of effects and sounds that, I don't know, it's not something I would say that I would add to this, because I would still continue to play Genos as opposed to the montage. The montage is great if you want to do some sort of wonderful effects and panning and all that sort of big knob thing where you twiddle and I don't want to sound old, but it looks like a gimmick. And I just don't particularly find it enjoyable to play. Whereas this, I can create anything, knowing full well that I've got basically the whole orchestra here. And the montage has some nice string voices. It really does. But most of them are very similar to this. It's like there's, as I said to you at the beginning of the video, there's pockets of things that Yamaha, I don't think, have sort of pushed. It's like they've got a brick wall and they won't go beyond that brick wall. It's like, no, we've put the shutters up. This is as far as we're going. I think it could be so much better. I had a few opportunities to try their Nord equipment, Nord synths, and I can see why Nord is very, very popular, because it's so playable. You can go to a Nord, put a lead voice on and create something that's really outstandingly good. But it's not an arranger. In actual fact, thinking of it, today somebody posted that all the arranger keyboards on the market are rubbish because Nord make the best one. Well, that's complete claptrap. Nord don't make an arranger. So that's out. So whoever posted that, idiot. But anyway, there you go. But the truth is that the Nord has outstandingly good sounds, absolutely super voices, and they all work well as lead voices. And I think, and I've said this before in previous videos, that a lot of companies that make keyboards are losing the focus of the fact that for things like this, you want something that you can play. Now, one of the comments on the video, my previous video, was, what are the synth pads and leads like? Well, I'm going to show you. Maybe you'll get my sort of drift on this one. So this is, I'm going to turn the style off because I want to just sort of give a full idea of what this is. Now, these voices are great. That's called angel pad. We got tape strings, not tapeworm. Then we've got CS pad. Soft FM pad. Now, if I was to say to you, are you noticing a pattern here? Apart from the fact I'm playing the same chords. Yeah, are you noticing something? That they're all very FM. And FM, if you look, is obviously what's tagged each voice, FM, 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 FM. Now, call me weird, but I'm not a fan of FM at all. I think it's one of the most flattest, lifeless tones going. Now, put your fingers in your ears because I'm going to say something now. None of these, in my view, have got what I would call balls. There's nothing that jumps out and you says, right, this is really thick, big. They're just wishy-washy, watery. They're lifeless. I'm lucky to I've still got the Roland Phantom sat next to me, and the Phantom kicks Yamaha's backside when it comes to pads. They are really rich, big, nice sounds. They're just thin. So, and again, I'm being honest, I hardly ever use pads in here. If anything, I'll use a user voice that I'll create. The synth voices are, again, are very, very similar. They're not... I mean, where the hell would you use that? Give me some lead voices that have got... There's this sort of... I don't know why Yamaha have gone back to an old voice generation tool, FM, that they had in the 80s. It just doesn't fit on a modern instrument anymore. Maybe it does if it's a synth, I don't know. But somebody at Yamaha has obviously got a sort of sentimental part of them that thinks FM should be in it. And people I speak to who've got Genoses all say the same thing. Get rid of the FM. The FM is just, it's weak, it's watery, and I just simply don't use it. In fact, if you notice on any of the videos, it's always guitars, organ, piano, sometimes strings and woodwind if I'm doing anything, but I stay well away from the synth stuff because there's so much better out there. Yeah, it's like they just... Anyway, I'm repeating myself, but anyway, so going back to the question from the chappie who asked on the previous video, what are the pads? Well, the pads are pretty pants, being brutally honest. They're thin. That's one of the better voices, the butter strings. They are... That's a nice sound, it really is. But then you go back to just thin voices. So the only way I would describe the Yamaha pads and synth would be thin, watery, and pretty lame, to be brutally honest. the expansion packs that are out there, yeah, that'll give you the sounds that you want. I've actually mentioned this to Yamaha a couple of times. The fact that the synth side of this is very weak. However, it's not weak on everything else, because all the new stuff that came along with Genos 2, I'll actually go as far as to say that the voices in Genos 2 for things like orchestral are actually better than in the montage. I mean, that is just stunning. And of course, when you go in and people sort of say, well, why do you buy an arranger? You buy an arranger because if you want to find a quick sound, you can play immediately live without programming, no sort of setting things up. So this is one of the reasons why I think Genos 2 has a very nice sort of niche. But it ain't no synthesizer, and it should never be classed as a synthesizer because it isn't. To me, it's a sample player with a style arranger built in, because the voices are all sampled. The styles, obviously, you can pick and program your own stuff. There's some great stuff in here, there really is. And you just pick a voice, and it's as simple as that. But the synth, the modern side of things, again, the programmers who make the styles for Genos, again, need to sort of, I don't know how old the programmers are, but dance music isn't this. It shouldn't be called dance, it should be called Euro pop, because that isn't a dance category. A lot of the dance stuff is just shockingly... It's German. The whole damn thing sort of runs around Germany. It's and it may sound sort of quite bad, but where's the modern day dance, sort of like trance and all that sort of side of things? This is not up to date in any way, shape or form. This is a 50, 60 year old person's idea of what dance music should be, and this isn't modern day dance. And the sad thing is, most of the kits, the drum kits used to create the modern stuff, are in here. It's just that the styles aren't based around any sort of particular one sort of modern day style. They're all very, like I say, something your dad would sort of class as dance music. It's not modern day hip hop. No, it's not. So the dance category, and this is going to sound really weird. I'm not slagging this off. I'm not having a go at it. What I am saying to you is, for anybody who's young and thinks, oh, it's got a dance category on it, they'd sit there thinking, what the hell is this? This is not dance music. I don't know what it is. But for those of us who are in that older generation, and that's including me now, I think, I've sort of just tipped over, I recognise where these styles are coming from, and I recognise what they're for. But like I say, this is not going to appeal to a young person because it doesn't have the content for that young person. So, I don't know where I'm going with this. What I am saying is that basically, if you are looking for a modern day instrument, this, as a young person, isn't going to tickle your fancy. This is not going to be the thing that you're going to want to run out and buy. Probably the montage is more your sort of thing. But it's a shame because this whole engine that creates styles could be so much more modern. It really, really could. The dance in here isn't modern. Rock, again, we're sort of going back in time with the content in here. I think the most up-to-date stuff in here is U2. Because again, the styles that sort of came out with the Genos 2, I mean, don't get me wrong, that sounds phenomenally good. Maybe what I'm saying is Yamaha need to look for some young blood to program styles and not the sort of old person's idea or older person's, I make it sound awful, but the older person's idea of modern styles. Country and Western, I mean, there's so much in here, but the country and Western and easy listening stuff and all that, it's targeted at a particular age range. And it would be great if Yamaha sort of bought out, or when they were developing the product, bought out a pack that's sort of age ranged. So it's targeted at people between the ages of 16 and say 22, maybe 22 to 35, and then the content is more relevant to that particular age range. But at the moment, the Genos 2 it's a very, I would say probably 40 to 100, depending on how old you are. But it is targeted at a particular age range. And that's nothing negative or nothing down. But what I would say is if Yamaha are wanting to seriously look at bringing in a new audience to keep this sort of product alive and to give them business, then they need to start thinking a bit more sort of modern, and not, I mean, retro pop basically is 1980 in a box. I mean, come on. We all know who that is. I think I was about 14, 13 at the time when that. So this is how old this content is. But then you get really nice sort of generic styles. I would like to see more generic content personally for styles. Not this sort of my baby takes the. You're with me? It's a bit too. And I'm sure Yamaha must be paying an absolute fortune for licenses for copyright on these, when they could just make some really great generic. Nice, easygoing style. So there you go. Anyway, so I've sort of gone off at a tangent. But the pads and synths, I don't particularly rate. I never have in Yamaha products, because the FM or the tone generation it creates it's thin. It's too thin for me. I wouldn't find this. I wouldn't use it to create something like that. I would have to record a multi-layer and then sort of start adding some pads and bells. But the general, that sort of sound, it's a very thin voice. So whilst I love this, and I do genuinely love this keyboard, it is fantastically good at certain things. And that is one of the reasons we're going back to the question from the viewer, why don't I do a lot with the synth and the voices, the synth side of things? And that's because it excels at much other things, not at synth. Maybe you disagree, I don't know. If you do, leave a comment. Tell me why you think the voices in the Genos 2 for the synth side and pad side are so good. Maybe you think the same as me. Maybe you do genuinely believe that Yamaha need to kick up the pads and need to come up with a new sort of sound engine or something to create much bigger, fatter, bigger, nicer, warmer sounds for the pads and more richness and more choice, more than anything else. The selection for synth is very, very, that you can actually use for a lead. And then when they do give you something else, they give you something from a 1980s FM. But again, just sort of prove a final point before I disappear, because I've been rambling on for 40 minutes and I didn't want to make this too long. But just going back to one of the styles and sort of proving a point. Right, okay, so everybody, when I must admit I was one of them, when we first got this, I thought, holy hell, this is great. But then you play the theme from Top Gun, not Top Gear, and then you play it again, and then you play it again, you think, I'm starting to get bored of this. But the trouble is, this is a style that's taken up one of the positions. I mean, programmed at Yamaha, taking probably an awful lot of time, and I mean, whoever did it is genius. But what else do you play? The only thing I've managed to do is go into the channel and turn off chord 1, so you get rid of that useless tubular bell. Great if you're playing Top Gun, but other than that, what do you do? So there we go. So probably my first ever video, sort of not that positive about a Yamaha section of the product. The synth and the pads aren't the best, and it's why I kind of use this more for sort of general listening music, sort of, you know, put a guitar on and a sort of nice style and play. It's nothing that I could sit and create dance music on, but what I will show you, because I'm going to get you into one of my little sort of other sides of things that I like to do, is I'm going to show you some software on a VST that I use so much. It's a phenomenal bit of kit. So if you are into dance music and you're seriously into pop with real modern sounds, watch out for my next video, because it's going to be featuring an incredible bit of software. I've owned it for many years, since it first came out, and it's gone through 4 different generations of updates, and I can safely say it is just absolutely stunning. And this is what kind of worries me with the arranger keyboard market, because it only takes somebody to make an arranger that runs on a Mac or a PC, and it runs well, because let's face it, if you've got a PC, you'd be Well, I'd be crossing my fingers every time I turned it on. Back to Verzi organs again. But no, seriously, I mean, if somebody made something for a Mac that would run on a Macintosh, I mean, the Macs are bulletproof. They are. I mean, I'm probably starting a whole sort of Mac thing now. But anyway, I don't care. Macs are so reliable and so solid when it comes to music production. If somebody made a plugin or VST, that would, or possibly could be, the end of this. You would probably think, well, I'm not going to spend $3,500 on a Ranger keyboard. I'm going to spend a couple of hundred, maybe 500 even, on a piece of software that I can run on my Mac. It does exactly the same job, but it does so much more, because of course there's no limitation with that. Whereas this is limited to the hardware that's in the box. A computer isn't, because of course it can expand and do whatever. You can add more memory. It's just a whole different world, but it's a different product. So there you go. Anyway, so sadly, the pads aren't brilliant and never really have for Yamaha. He says, there we go. It's just a very thin sound. And the other thing as well, which I have also mentioned to Yamaha, is a lot of the pads come in so slowly. It takes ages to come in. So if you're playing something with the left hand with that and changing quickly, it's never going to appear. You want pads that are immediately, instantly there. So you press your note, your chord's there. There are obviously some voices in here that do that job. To me, that's a much more useful, but it's still thin. It's still very, very thin, which is one of the reasons I always go back to using strings. For those of you who know, I'm always using strings pad. It's in the legacy section of the instrument. It's on page 4, then page 2 on the second section, and you'll see it. On page 2 is Allegro strings. On page 4 is strings pad. Those are the two voices that I use a lot for the left-hand pad. But generally, the pad voices just don't do it for me. So until next time, and next time will be different because, like I say, it will be using a Mac and some software. I'm going to show you if you do want to look at making sort of really great music and using very, very modern sounds, I'm going to show you something nice. You'll be quite, I think you'll be quite excited at the idea. But anyway, until next time, look after yourselves. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click the little bell, and then when the next video does appear, you'll get a notification to say, oi, there's a new video to watch. I thank you all. Oh, the other thing as well is thank you to everybody who's got me to 16,100 subscribers. I know I always try and respond to every single person that takes time to comment, because it's rude if you don't. Why would you have a channel and invite people to leave a comment and then just don't simply respond? It's just rude. So I always do try and say, hi, thank you for watching, hope you've enjoyed it, blah, blah, blah. I'll always try and respond. We do get the odd nutcase that puts something silly, like the Nord thing the other day. But all in all, thank you. A really big thank you. I never thought it would hit 16,100. I did mean to do a video when it hit 16,000, but, time and all that. But anyway, right, so look after yourselves, take care, and I'll see you with the next video with something very, very different.